Adventure time! Come on, grab your friends. We'll go and critique this cartoon show with Emmy wins and Oscar awards. The rating's gonna come soon. It's Adventure time. The review. Alright, so obviously by this slick opening, we're going to be reviewing a huge influential cartoon in the 2010s to 2018s. Adventure Time. Is it a good show? Is it worth the hype? What can you expect out of this cartoon series? There's an avalanche of material to cover. So much that even if I had a team of broke college students analyzing every single frame and episode, I won't be able to cover it all. So I won't. Instead, I'm just gonna give my general thoughts and holistic review of Adventure Time and lightly cover the ending. I'll give a heads up when the ending section happens. I'll minimize spoilers, and by the end of this review, you'll get your answer, and probably have an emotional rollercoaster of an adventure in the process. So let's get started. If you're completely new to Adventure Time, you're probably looking at some poster, merchandise, loot, or an episode from the recommended list from your favorite streaming service and asking, why does it look like a fever dream? And my response to that is, I can't really answer that. I don't really have a response to that because some of the episodes are like a fever dream. But don't let that disregard the whole series. Adventure Time is about Finn and Jake's adventure through the lands of Ooo. In this land, there's all kind of wacky and outlandish elements, from literally a kingdom made of candy, to an endless grinding RPG dungeon, to Abraham Lincoln living on Mars. Technically that last one isn't on Ooo, but you get the idea. As we explore the world of Ooo with Finn and Jake, we discover all kinds of inhabitants, and the focus pivots from the adventures of this dynamic duo to the adventures of these denizens, their character growth, and their impact in the world. Of course, there will be a major focus on Finn and Jake since they're our heroes. But the scope will be substantially widened to shine across a variety of characters from elemental rulers to everyday sentient soda. While learning about the world of Ooo and having some bun-punching moment with Finn, you'll be experiencing some superb, trippy visuals. And the art direction focuses on depicting a fantastical, weird land and supernatural dreamscapes. You'll be going from a vibrant scarlet red fire kingdom with lava spouts to weird psychedelic dream forest with funky looking inhabitants. There's often an absurd amount of items in the backgrounds too, which serves to really bring the world to life, and at times prove to be key plot elements to be used in later episodes. Contrasting the amount of items and crazy environments is a simplistic art style that uses bright, vibrant, solid colors to capture attention without being overbearing on the audience. It's like a Dungeons & Dragons wizard cast color spray everywhere instead of prismatic spray. And while the show prides itself on being lighthearted and funny, when certain serious or major events are happening, they'll shift the tone of the colors, saturations, or art style accordingly, even if there's a giant rainbow on screen. Without a shadow of a doubt, one of the strong suits of Adventure Time is the ability to depict fascinating character designs and worlds that pulls the viewer in and sometimes pushes the boundaries of surrealism or comic absurdity. Just take any of the kingdoms such as the bright, cheerful Breakfast Kingdom or the dilapidated metallic Moko Factory, and you'll get a general idea of what you're in for with Adventure Time. And I love the charm and creativity that comes with it all. Accompanying the art is, of course, the animation. It complements the simplistic art style by also being simplistic itself. The battle scenes for the most parts are okay. There's mostly nothing ooh about Oo's battle choreography. There are exceptions, of course, such as this algebraic battle scene, but on the whole, the battle stuff just aren't anything of note. Again, I reiterate, they aren't terrible, just lacking the ah for the ooh. But you know what's ah? The animation for the visual gags. Like, look at this. It's simple, but wildly effective, which is complemented by the sound effect, the voice acting, and the music. For the most part, the sound effect takes the same route as the art style. They're mostly simple and does its job, but the sound team steps up to the plate on occasions when there's a major set piece or event happening, usually when encountering some trippy Nightosphere Outer Realm stuff. Not all the time though, and it definitely isn't one of the strong suits for the series. Instead, that goes to the voice acting and music. Listen, the voice acting is top notch. Everyone nailed the roles perfectly and gave life to these characters, and sometimes pull off completely unexpected voices that blindsides you but makes you laugh at the ridiculousness of it all. At the beginning of Adventure Time, we have a young 12 years old Jeremy Shada voicing Finn. As the series went on, Jeremy aged obviously, because he's no Time Lord Matt Smith, and Finn's voice develops alongside Jeremy's. It's a sharp contrast comparing the earlier versions and later versions of Finn, and noting the differences in his voice and maturity. And the rest of the cast also has this trait. It's just that Finn has the most notable transformation because it also happened in real life. And we have the dog man himself, Jake, played by John DiMaggio, also known for his other role as Bender from Futurama. He does a good job keeping the voices separate and distinct, so no worries there. And if you're wondering, and minor spoilers incoming for like the next 10 seconds, yes, there is an episode which lampshades Futurama. The best thing is, you'll know it when you hear it, not see it. And maybe that'll be enough of a reason for you to watch Adventure Time. Everyone else, of course, did a slamming job with their characters. Nikki Yang does an adorable job voicing a psychotic at times BMO. Hynden Walsh portrayed a bubbly Princess Bubblegum, and Olivia Olson rocked out a fresh Marceline. Basically, everyone was spot on, and there's too many for me to list here. And on top of all that, they're great at belting out some power vocals too. They all put out some memorable songs of all different types of genres. By the way, did I mention how the music encompasses a huge spectrum of depth depending on the episode? Yeah, Marceline is in general a hardcore rocking vampire queen that puts out the with her bass guitar. But sometimes she drops her tough bad girl persona and plays some very emotional, touching music. Other times, Jake does what most of us do. Sing when cooking, or at least try to cook. And it is a catchy theme song about making bacon pancakes. And at other points of the show, we get secret goofy moments like singing about punch your buns in the bathroom mirror. Like, I'm pretty sure every single one of us has done this at least one point in our life. Sometimes, even the one-off characters put a spell on the audience through some sweet, beautiful lullabies or theatrical pieces. Undoubtedly, the music is one of Adventure Time's shining highlights. With a variety of genres, splendid vocals, and strong lyrics, the audience is bound to find a song that they'll enjoy. And the interesting thing is, a good selection of these songs are intertwined with the plot and story development of Adventure Time. But is the plot, story, and general premise effective? Or is the story like a lemon grab yelling unacceptable and your ears grating on a million tiny jagged sporks? To answer that, we'll have to explain a little bit about the stories. I'll keep it short and as spoiler-free as possible. At the beginning of this series, we are introduced to all of the colorful inhabitants of Ooo and trying to establish a baseline. Overall, they're just building a vibrant living world. As a result of establishing background, there isn't much of a plot. It's just quirky, episodic adventures and having a plain old fun time. Like winning a Grand Wizard tournament for a maiden's kiss, or finding Finn some heavy-duty Space Marine armor because, he got a splinter while closing a janky wooden door. You get all kinds of wacky stories. However, once enough of the world has been built, which is around the middle seasons, we begin to unravel plot, and all of the characters begin to change. Why are they changing? Because time actually moves in Ooo instead of being frozen in New York traffic. Bubblegum's kingdom is developing and has diplomatic negotiations and problems with other kingdoms. Finn is a young boy who is in the process of growing up and actually gets his first girlfriend. Other characters have children and are obviously impacted by what the children do. It's all very slice of life and makes it feel like Adventure Time isn't solely about the characters, but the world being molded by the experiences of the characters, both while time is moving on and off the screen. And because the characters are always evolving in the show, the episodes, every once in a while, touches upon life or philosophical questions. Questions such as, how does it feel after a relationship breakup? Or, what does it mean to be a father? And while there are many plotlines and stories that are on a smaller, more intimate scale, there are also grand plotlines that are carefully constructed to be ambitious and bombastic. These plotlines are fascinating because they often weave in small, but important details from the standalone episodes or smaller plotlines. For example, Finn becomes immune to electricity in what appears to be a one-off episode, but later on, Finn fights an electric eel, and that exact same immunity plays into the grand scheme of ultimately hurting one of Finn's friend and revealing a spoilerific hidden archipelago. Another example is the very, very innocuous event of Ice King stealing everyone's coat hangers to make a super long hook. Why does he need a long hook? Because he dropped his keys in a very deep chasm and needed something super long to reach it. Why is this important? Because that exact same hook literally saves lives many episodes later by fishing people out of the most dangerous game of The Floor is Lava. The show creators really put in thoughts on how to set up the grand plot lines for the various seasons. So the story is good, right? It sounds great. It sounds like it's gonna blow your mind. And being blunt, it's actually very hit or miss. For many season finales, there's this kind of accumulating hype, and they do a stellar job building up to it. But then for some of the finales and grand plot lines, and it's a good chunk of these season finales and plot lines, they resolve the story at whiplash speed. It's not horrible how they resolve them, but it is extremely quick, and sometimes kind of unsatisfying. Kind of like a microwaved sad burrito. However, not all of the finales are resolved quickly, and I need to make this clear. When Adventure Time gets a lengthy plotline right, they really get it right. And a lot of the earlier problems with the finales are diminished in the later seasons of Adventure Time. Especially the miniseries, which are major storylines in Adventure Time. These miniseries are some of the best and satisfying stories around and one of the shining highlights for the show. And the individual self-contained episodes on the whole are hilarious and fun. We get a fine balance of humor and outlandish content in most of the episodes. And then these episodes often explore the world of Ooh or the character's mindset in some kind of crazy capacity. But yeah, some of the self-contained episodes are strong misses, like XCOM missing a bad guy in front of your face type of miss. There's a lot of reasons why some of these episodes are misses to me. For example, one episode tries to use deep philosophy, but made the entire episode completely inaccessible to most of the audience without a PhD in philosophy and existential dread, because they focused on open-ended abstract imagery and metaphors. Another one has a repetitive, ear-grating phrase that infuriates the viewers, and no, it's not lemon grabs unacceptable. And sometimes the episode is just boring to me with nothing to laugh with because the one-off characters don't seem alive or vibrant or have poor dialogue. Now, luckily these episodes are uncommon, but unfortunately they're not ultra rare. They kind of aggregate it in the middle of the seasons of Adventure Time with the occasional zombie outbreak into the later seasons, so giving fair warning for new viewers. But I reiterate, most of the episodes are gut-punching fun and slapstick laughter with unpredictable witty humor. Yet, this next topic is no laughing matter. Sometimes the final episodes and ending can make or break an entire series. We all know that one show or game where the ending is so bad that it makes Mass Effect 3's ending look passable. An ending where the final boss battle is literally a QuickTime event and we have a new character introduced in the last 2 minutes of the story. It really ticks me off to this very day, so please help calm me down by liking and subscribing this video. Subscriber count going up has a soothing, pacifying effect for me. But I'm going off the rails here. Adventure Time's ending is solid and pure fun, and I don't want to say too many spoilers right now. Just know it's captivating, engrossing, and an exciting finale. I'm going to briefly touch upon my thoughts on the ending, so if you want to skip the spoilers, click to the timestamp over here. Alright, all good? Everyone strapped in? Okay, let's get going. I'll be honest, I went into this with a low bar for the finale, mainly because I just finished watching Elements and wondered, how are they going to top that? You have major kingdoms of Ooh warring with each other, and they become horribly corrupted and twisted versions of themselves. You had the whole world going topsy-turvy with people turning into candy and becoming pure enraged fighters and whatnot, and then you had Fern go ballistic like XQC on our place as the season finale. It's one of the highest stakes seasons there is. And if that wasn't enough, the previous season had a major lore revelation around humans and Finn's parents. It's one of the most emotional and stunning seasons there is, and one of my favorites. So yeah, how is the final storyline going to top that? And being blunt, the Gombaldia War just felt kind of plopped in there. It's not bad, it's just unfortunate placement. If it took place before Islands and Elements, I think the Gombaldia War would have been amazing. All the required components for a stellar story was there. We have stakes set up between all the characters. We have inner turmoil between the main characters such as Finn, Fern, Bubblegum, and even Marceline. And we have major character growth for Finn and friends. The young boy who solves this problem in the past by punching stuff learns that you can't solve all the problems in the world by punching, just most of them, and only if they have a face, and only if they can feel pain. Regardless, the Gumbaldia arc was solid, but didn't reach the same height as Elements or Islands or Stakes. But what about the last episode? Well, the last episode is oodles of fun and humor and emotional impact, and overall was an excellent episode. Many of the characters throughout the series have assembled together, and it's awesome seeing how they all interact with each other. We get touching moments of attempted de-escalation, such as Marceline trying to talk some sense into Bubblegum. And we even get funky humor, such as LSP floating up to the unconscious war leaders and scream out, "They're dead!" It's a delight seeing all the pieces come together. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. There are some major flaws and letdowns that you kind of have to turn a blind eye to. The biggest offender is Golb in the pacing. Yes, it's a big cosmic entity that was lightly foreshadowed in the past. It also just pulled a Mass Effect 3 and popped in way too harshly and stole the thunder from the Gumbaldia War. Yes, I know there's hints with Betty talking about Golb and her being inside the Nightmare Dream, but for a major villain this big, I would have much preferred a smoother foreshadowing. Maybe have Cosmic Owl or Prismo sense something's up, or have Huntress Wizard notice that there's an air of chaos that's not gumballed in the forest. Or have an episode about how Betty captured Maja from the ancient psychic tandem war elephant, who I'm also kinda sad didn't get to fight in the final battle and just showed up at the end of the fight. Speaking of psychic tandem war elephant, a major chunk of the hyped up villains we see didn't get to do anything. Like my boy, Sir Slicer, one of the best one-off villains, just had an appearance with crows flying out of nowhere and that's it. I mean, I guess that's what he did in his debut episode too, but you get the idea with other characters such as Ricardo. And I get it, the animation budget probably couldn't accommodate them. But it would have been nice to see a few frames of these characters in the background fighting for their lives. And I don't have much of a problem with this as other people, but Golb's interaction with harmonious music is something significant to note. Golb is this cosmic Azathoth type entity and is probably a stand-in for the H.P. Lovecraft horror, so I'm actually okay with him being subdued by music. It happened to Azathoth with some sweet musical drum beats, so it can happen to Golb too. But again, my preference is to foreshadow its weakness in previous episodes. Maybe have Prismo hint that there's this cosmic being that always falls asleep to his banjo music and is kind of a big jerk. Maybe have Bubblegum experiment with an imitation of a chaos elements and figuring out that it's weak to sound waves in a specific configuration. And again, yeah, I get it. They probably don't have the time or budget to dedicate episodes to these things, otherwise they would have added in all these other cool monsters. But I would have rather have them take out some of the filler episodes like Ring of Fire, come on, and focus on smoother transitional episodes for Golb. Or better yet, move the Gumball arc into its own miniseries and have the Golb arc its own thing. It would have made the final episode even better. I know the team is capable of doing something like this because they put out those well-developed miniseries. Stakes, Islands, and Elements were cornerstones of storytelling for this series. Now, I've been doing a lot of complaining, but don't let that fool you. The ending is great and it has a lot of things going for it. I'm just going to touch on a few points. Like, for example, the way how BMO comes to save Jake is touching. The final song was beautiful, and then everyone rallying together to try and save Finn and Jake to defeat Golb is poetic. For all the time Finn and Jake saves everyone, it is reversed for this one important moment. This time, it is everyone else coming together to save Finn and Jake. And it's so touching. Fern's last moment was so emotional and he finally comes to terms with himself. And the last montage where it shows all the characters of Adventure Time continuing on with their lives. It's a masterpiece. I have no words to match it because it really was that outstanding and fills you with nostalgia and wonder for the future. It makes it feel like Adventure Time will never end, because the adventures don't end. They're just a chapter in a person's story, and they just keep going. And everyone has their own stories and adventures. That's the theme of this entire show, and this ending, it's a perfect fit for this theme. And the final scene with Beth and Shermie reinforces this concept even more. As Shermie pulls out the new Finn sword from the tree with Beth, we get a mirror of the show's opening, solidifying the idea that adventures and stories will keep happening even into the far future. Just maybe not to a sweet music hole song. And people are probably going to be wondering what happens to everyone after the series end. And to be honest, BMO has the best answer to that.
Hey, they kept living their lives.
Adventure Time is an amazing series with a colorful, goofy exterior and a chocolatey, merry interior. That chocolate is a blend of sweet and sometimes dark story moments. Sometimes, the story falls flat on its face and cracks open like an egg in a child's egg drop experiment. But other times, the story takes the remains of that splattered egg and cooks the perfect egg sandwich that is bursting at the sides with cosmic pickles. What I'm trying to say is, Adventure Time is a wild, delicious treat. The music is always on point and strikes a divine note that sings to your ear. And the art and design is so surreal and zany that you'll at the very least find the show interesting on the eyes. But despite all this praise, Adventure Time isn't for everyone. For a show with a crazy amount of logical detail and cause and effect, you'll have to put away some of your logic in a back corner. A healthy dose of suspension of disbelief is required to enjoy Adventure Time. The audience also has to have an open mind about new characters taking the spotlight towards the later seasons, and a shift towards longer storytelling episodes instead of self-contained episodic moments. And the humor is heavily dependent on the person. If you can laugh at Jake's fart jokes, then Adventure Time humor is probably up your alley. If not, well, maybe you'll grow to like it. But on the whole, Adventure Time is a great show with very high highs and is generally lighthearted. Once in a blue moon though, it engages with tough coming-of-age questions such as friendship jealousy or familial problems, but usually doesn't go so deep that it causes too deep for you mode. Instead, the show focuses on pure fun and comedy with amusing storytelling that is definitely worth the hype. I'll rate it a thin cake out of Marceline's bass guitar. Why? Because just like the show, I'm just that goofy. So yeah, if this review helped you in deciding whether or not to watch Adventure Time, leave a like, ring the bell, comment or slicer if you got to this point, and subscribe for more cool content. Maybe I'll see you in the next video. Laters!